make sure you listen to my daddy's podcast right now. It's the best show in the world.
And this is the Cards Face Up podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Ty Hill. Listen, y'all know what this show is. It's a show all about honoring and showing love. This one of those nostalgic moments that I like to do. I got a special guest, as we always do with these Cards Face Up, I Declare War episodes. Today's special guest, man, this one plays a part in my heart. I'm talking my growth, my childhood, all of that, right? He's known today as just Mutah, and he's formerly one of the members of the historic rap group, the Outlaws, AKA Dromacidals. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Not yet? All right, cool. That's cool. The rap group was mentored by the late, great Tupac Shakur. Y'all see me with the shirt on for those that's watching the video. Y'all know that's one of my heroes, you dig? Not only was they mentored by Pac, though, they was also family to Tupac. They became his brothers. They became a part of his life. Mutah is not just a former rapper. He's a business owner, a motivational speaker. He's a devoted father, brother. He's a Muslim. You understand what I'm saying? And for those that may not still know who I'm talking about, maybe you just know him as Moo. I don't know. He was featured in arguably one of the greatest diss songs of all time. You talking Hit 'Em Up. And not just featured, his name was mentioned in a part of that song that's probably my favorite part of the song. A little move past the Mac and let me hit him in his back. Frank White need to get spanked. Listen, if y'all don't know by now, right? Like I said, he's a former outlaw immortal. He goes by the name Napoleon. Welcome to the show, my brother. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. It's my honor. It's my pleasure, bro. I gotta definitely say that's one of the best intros I ever heard, bro.
Man, that's an honor, brother. Listen, I gotta shout you out first before we get this going. And Napoleon, as y'all know, and first of all, is it okay to still say Napoleon? It's
no
okay
problem. Yeah, for sure. No problem.
I gotta make sure we respecting the legend first. You feel me? Now listen, I gotta make sure that I tell y'all, this brother has been a man of his word. He answers every time I hit him up. One of the most just realest individuals I had the opportunity to even exchange pleasantries with. So I thank you for being that brother that you are, man.
Thank you, brother. It's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure.
So this show is all about just getting those backstories, getting that love. We try to rebuild those moments of happiness, even though sometimes happiness is done with a little bit of, bad things that happen inside those happy. It still make us think of greater times, times when we were happy. I call them nostalgic moments. I call them those moments that smell like something. So I'm going to jump right in it, right?
Yes.
I just heard the other day, and it's something that I've never heard before. Tupac turned down a song with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Pac told us about it. I guess, Michael Jackson is a legend, of course, you know what I mean? And growing up, especially in the African-American community, to be able to go to your parents, if you're a musician, to be able to go to your parents and say, man, I got a call from Michael Jackson. He wanted me to come to the studio. So Pac was on it like that, sharing information to his mother, his aunts, his whole family. Like, man, I'm going to do a song with Michael Jackson. And when he walked into the studio, Michael Jackson wasn't there. And, so I read some of the comments when people felt like it was egotistic from Tupac point of view for not doing it. But I don't agree with them. I don't agree with those comments because, as a person, like Michael Jackson could have been like one of the childhood heroes for Pac. And to be called in to do a song, and for Pac, thought it was more of a personal thing. Like, man, if I'm gonna do a song with him, I'm gonna get to meet him and things like that. So when he walked in, and the guy was like, "Leave your verse here and this and this and that," and he was like, "Where's Michael Jackson?" Pac was like, "Man, he walked out." You know what I mean? He felt from the way he is, maybe because Pac is the type of person who's more very individual, more personal. If he tell a person come to the studio do a song, Pac will be there to greet that individual. You know what I mean? To make sure you cool, you need anything. So he probably wanted the same things, you know what I mean, from Michael Jackson. When he didn't get it, he walked out, he didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Rest in peace, Pac and Michael Jackson. Now, y'all know that's two of my heroes right there. I mean, we talking about two. So I would have loved to see it happen, but I'm in agreement with y'all. I feel as though Mike should have been there. Mike, shit, you was supposed to make each other day. So Napoleon, I want to get right into it, brother, with you, man. We got to discuss because you are a legend, and I feel as though sometimes your legendary status doesn't get the credit that it's supposed to. How did we get Lil Moo? How did we get Napoleon on the rap scene? Tell us about you. Where did you pop up at? What, y'all was like 16, 17, right?
Probably earlier than that. You know, when I first met Pac, it was before the Outlaws, even the Dramacidal days. You know, he was around. The only rappers he had at that particular time when I first met him was the Thug Life homies, Edie and Castro and Gaddafi. So when I came around, because, you know, childhood friend of Gaddafi, and when I came around, maybe 14, 15 years old, Pac was in New York and we was in Atlanta. We just did a song together. And when he heard the song, he fell in love with it. He was like, man, that's what I was looking for. I want to make y'all a group. And I remember I was a little upset because I came around, I wanted to be solo. Like, man, I want to be in a group with these dudes, bro. So we went from Young Thugs, you know what I mean? It first started off with Young Thugs. We didn't have the name Napoleon. You know, I think Edie was Big Mouth, K was K-Dog, Gaddafi was Young Hollywood. I was Little Moo, you know. And Pac was like, man, I'm gonna put a group together called Young Thugs. So we did some songs together called under the name Young Thugs. You know what I mean? And then things changed when he went to prison. When he went to prison, got shot. That's when he changed and turned and wanted to call ourselves. He wanted to give us the name Dramacidal. Dramacidal because Oakland, the Bay Area, back in the day, they used to have this slang where they used to put the word "cital" on everything. Man, he's dope-a-cital. He's, it was a Bay Area slang. So he's like, man, I'm gonna call you guys Dramacidal. So after that, he decided to come with the Outlaws. So when he came up with the Outlaws, that's when he wanted to give us names and alias. You know, Napoleon, that came about. It just, I used to have a very bad temper, and Pot used to joke and say he got the short man complex. And he's like, you Napoleon Bonaparte, Gaddafi, Edie. He gave them this name. Young Noble came around. I would say, Fatal came around through Gaddafi. Young Noble came around through Fatal. Edie is family. Castro is his family. Gaddafi is his family. But all the rest of us who came around, me, Young Noble, Fatal, we was brought in by family. It's not like we just was rapping. He said, okay, Pac was very, very careful who he had close to him. You know what I mean? So Gaddafi was from the same block as Fatal, and he brought Fatal to the prison to rap for Pac. When Pac heard Fatal, he was like, man, I got to put him in. Noble was from Montclair, but he was actually living in San Bernardino Valley out here in California. So when Fatal hit him up, like, man, we live out here now. So he was coming around the apartment chilling. And I think I don't know how it happened. Either Pac heard him freestyling or found a rap book, was like, bro, you rap? Go in the booth, let me hear something. And then when he heard Noble, he's like, man, I'm putting you in a group. So it just happened like that.
Wow. Yo, you ever sit back and think, right? Just how things all fall into place, right? You ever think, you talking about Pac, who had an opportunity to go to some of the most gangsterous, if that's even a word, places. I mean, we talking MC New York, starts off in New York. Then he come to my hometown, Baltimore. You understand what I'm saying?
Hey.
Then he goes out Oakland. And even though he had the Thug Life homies from Baltimore, you feel me? Shout out my man Mouse Man. Salute to him, you feel me? He had them. He goes out to Oakland, gets a whole nother set of homies, but he still came back for these little niggas in Jersey. You ever think as looking back, you ever be like, damn, what made him choose us out of all? Come on now, we talking three gangster places.
For sure.
He
know what I
chose
mean?
the one place that he wasn't. He never lived there, right?
Real talk. He never lived in Jersey, even though he had family ties in Jersey. But he never lived in Jersey. I think he knew about Jersey because he used to also go visit Tretch a lot. So he knew Jersey, you know what I mean? It's no difference, I mean, than Oakland, the Bay Area, Baltimore, especially the part of Jersey where I'm from, Irvington and Newark area. It just always been one of them areas, you know what I mean? And I guess he's seen something in us that we didn't even see in ourselves. We was kids, you know what I mean? We was just young kids, man. So, definitely was thankful for that opportunity because he probably really saved our lives or saved our freedom in ways that we don't know. Because when I got into the music industry, believe it or not, my family was the biggest drug dealers in my neighborhood. So my brothers, my cousins, they was climbing up the ladder in the street life, and I was with them. And then Pac just snatched me out. And all of my cousins and my brothers, they all went to prison, got shot up many times and shootouts many times, became the biggest drug dealers, went back to jail, lost many homies. So while they was going through this like war in my neighborhood, I was out already in the West Coast rapping. You know what I mean? So I always look back at it and say, no telling where I would have been if it wasn't for Pac saying, who gave me the opportunity. You know what I mean?
That's real. Is that where I saw an interview the other day, right? Shout out to the homies G-WIZ and all of those niggas over there with Bravehearts and NAS 2pac and things of sort. But G-WIZ was talking, and he spoke a few on this interview, and he talked about the infamous moment Tupac and Nas squared off at inside the park in New York, right? But he
Yes.
told a story that we never heard, which was prior to that at the event, at the actual event. And he said, I don't know if you've seen it. He said,
I don't even know who he is, who you talking about, but go ahead. He must be from Nas Click.
Yeah, he's one of,
okay.
Exactly. G-WIZ, he's one of their homies, you feel me? And he talked about how y'all walked past. He said the Outlaws walked past him and Jungle, they mouthed off and said some slick shit to y'all. He said y'all kept y'all head straight and just walked straight past. He said y'all did, but then he said y'all did it again and they mumbled some shit, said some shit to y'all, walked right past. Now, G-WIZ, I don't want to put no shit in your mouth. I don't want to put nothing in your mouth, pause. I know y'all New York niggas gotta say pause. But I think the way it made it look, it seemed like y'all was on some sucker shit, right? But then he said that y'all came back and Pac was with y'all. And then y'all pointed out, now y'all was ready for whatever. Y'all pointed out to Pac what was going on. Pac was ready for whatever inside the building, right? So I laugh at the situation that he was telling, or the story that he was telling, because like I said, it seemed like he was trying to say, oh, y'all was punks, y'all wasn't ready. But then I think about me knowing what Tupac was trying to build. For the little that we do know, we only know the plans that we heard. Pac was building an army of militant soldiers. So I'm like, shit, Pac probably told them niggas they couldn't say nothing until we on that. And y'all, you being Lil Moo, you feel me, that's ready to react. Napoleon, you ready to react. And I know majority of the Outlaws was on that. Y'all from Jersey. I mean, I know y'all was doing it. But for y'all to be able to focus, I don't know if y'all heard them talking or not, but for y'all to be able to focus and say, no, the business at hand, we got to make sure it's okay with Pac before we can ride. Is that, am I seeing this right, or you never heard this shit?
No, I never heard of this. To be honest, I agree with you. And just to make it clear, because I want people to know I'm Muslim now, and I don't like to bring back, I don't want people to think I'm trying to bring back old things and talk slick to anyone, you know what I mean? Because I look at that life now as it was ignorant the way we was moving in certain cases. But I would touch on it, of course, because it happened years ago, and I like to speak on things from a just standpoint of view. Even though Pac had us move that way, where we was like, you know what I mean? We want to get the green light before we really get into something. But we knew, especially me, bro, nobody gonna mouth off, and I'm just gonna keep my head straight. You know what I mean? I probably would have to just, take the consequences with Pac later, because he was very militant. He probably would have been like, y'all messed up the MTV Awards for me, this and this and that. But there's no way we heard somebody mouthing off, and we kept, man, because we were so young and wild. We was like, I used to go to events saying, please let somebody mouth off. I'm being 100% honest. Like, I used to I used to get myself in trouble because Pac like, what's wrong with you? And I say, I thought I saw him say something to me. Like, I used to be, you know what I mean? Back in the day, of course, it's almost 25, 28 years ago, but the mindset that we had, unfortunately, like I would tell youngsters now, don't have that mindset, because it's only going to get you in prison or early grave. You know what I mean? And I thank God that we survived that long. But that mindset we had back then, nobody would mouth off, and we would keep walking and go get Pac and come back. You know what I mean? What happened, as I remember, we was already standing there. This is what I can recall. But you also got to remember, it was so long ago. I'm 17, 18 years old. And my mindset back then, I probably was always, messed up in the head, intoxicated. But I do remember we standing there. And I remember, I don't know if now it might have been Jungle. I just remember Pac words saying, "Hey, homie, why you standing too close to me?" That's how I remember kicking off. And when I heard Pac say that, I jumped, right, because the guy was behind. The guy was like a table, and he didn't know that I got right behind him. And I was waiting for Pac to, like, I'm waiting. Like, as soon as it go off, I'm tearing off on him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I do remember there was another guy, and I seen in one of Nas interviews, it was one of their homies. I guess he was like real serious with karate or whatever. I seen another dude standing, staring at me. He was a big dude. But he was giving me this look like little homie, like basically like, what's wrong with you? Like a OG looking to his little brother, or like an OG looking at it. He wasn't like, he was like, let's get down, but he looked at it more like distaste, like, come on, man. Y'all really want to go there like an OG looking like, youngster, man, get it together. You know what I mean? That's what I recall.
Okay. I just wanted to, what's the name, man?
And shout out to Nas, man. Shout out to Nas, because I definitely want to say, Nas a solid dude. Because, the way he did step to Pac at that park, when Pac seen him, they walked to each other. I won't even say step to Pac, but he manned up. Mm-hmm. This was the time when Death Row, bro, was rolling around. You got Bloods, Crips, Pirus, security running around 200-300 deep. And people used to get out the way when they say Suge come in. But respect to Nas for being able to be a man and say, I'm going to go address this problem. I'm going to speak with Pac man to man. Back then, a lot of people wasn't doing that. You know what I mean? So he a real solid dude. Real
That's
solid dude.
Up, man. I had to touch on that. You ever think, right, now that you're older, you're more mature, you know, you with the old folks, you're seasoned now, you know, you're a vet in the game, man. You ever think this nigga Pac is 24, 25 years old? Like, that ever cross your mind, like, and think about where you were? Because the level of maturity, now, keep in mind, I said it on show, so y'all know I ain't going to trip because Napoleon here. I'm going to keep it funky, and I'm going to say what I always say. Pac made some crazy mistakes. But he was 25. I think about it almost being almost 40. Even in the immaturity that I feel as though he took certain directions that he didn't have to take or shouldn't have took, I'm not that mature at almost 40.
True,
and the
facts.
maturity that he had at 25 is higher than even I am now. And you growing up and you seeing more, what's on your, like, how does that come across your mind? Do you ever be like, wow, he was really
Real
just
talk.
placed here?
All the time, bro. I sit back now and I say, now I'm about to be 45 years old in October, God willing. And I sit back and I say, you know what, Pac, he died at 25 years old. And even for us, the way he carried himself back then, it was like he was older. He was already carrying himself like an older individual, very mature. Even the way he looked, now you don't think he was 25 years old. His mindset was very mature. But people do have to realize, like, 25 years old is young. No one is infallible. Pac made a lot of mistakes. We all make mistakes. You know what I mean? You know, can we say Pac would have changed in his mindset? He probably would have looked back at certain things differently. I believe so, because people grow and mature. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that I think Pac was at that particular time. You got to realize also Pac never got a chance to sit back and analyze what he was going through. He never got back. Mm-hmm. He never got back and say, you know, let me see what really happened in that studio. In prison, he couldn't. That's probably the time. But in prison, he was getting ready for war. Like, we used to go visit him all the time. It wasn't like he was reading books in prison, but I think he never got time to really, you know, sit back and say, what can have really happened? He just was on fire. 25 years old, get shot, go to prison, come out on fire, then die. You know what I mean? He never really got that chance to observe what was happening around him, in my opinion. You know what I mean? To probably, I think if he would live longer, I think even the beef between him and Biggie would have squashed it. That's what I believe, because I heard it out his mouth myself. And a lot of Pop fans, they don't like to hear this. I heard him himself say, man, I really don't want nothing bad to happen to Biggie. I just want to spank him like a little brother, but I don't really want nothing bad to happen to him. You know what I mean? So I think it would have got to a point that he probably would eventually have sat down, because I personally don't think Biggie has anything to do with Pop getting shot the first time or the second time. You know what I mean? I don't think Biggie, I don't know who was around him, who might have had some of the hands in it, but I don't think Biggie. And I think Pac was more upset because Biggie was saying that you the king of New York. He's the king of New York. And Pac was like, okay, if New York is your city, then tell me who did this to me. And then I guess with the whole who shot you coming out, that rubbed Pac the wrong way. But I think Pac deep down, he would have been able to sat down and probably would have been like, man, let me holler at this dude. Let me see what really happened. I think they would have squashed it. And God knows best, you know?
I definitely agree. Man, we missed so much with Pac. I feel like the world just didn't get to see what we would have saw. You know, even down to the Outlaws. I feel like everything. That's why I said this was a real important interview for me, because we didn't get to see. We get to see what God wanted it to be, what it was supposed to be.
For sure.
Of course, you know, we don't go against what God has placed here, and that's what it's supposed to be. But
for sure,
the visions and the expectations or the possibilities is what, you know, troubles everybody's mind. So,
no doubt, man. Pac had plans for us where I think, you know, I sit back and always say maybe when God could have been saving us from something. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I don't trip and say, oh, man, we could have been this, we could have sold this, even though we was on 40 million record sales worldwide. But Pac was about to drop our album, and I think it would have took us on another level. Well, bro, we don't know. We probably would have lost our mind. Everything in the music industry and all fame ain't good. You know what I mean? So God could have been saving us from something that we don't even know. Sometimes we think something is good from the outside looking in, but you don't know what we probably been hooked on crack probably because you never know. You know what I mean? Never. How many people become celebrities and become, famous and become, successful and lose their mind, and lose their soul. So I always look at it like, man, God probably was protecting us and we don't even know. So we can't get angry and say, wow, we never really got that full push in the industry because we never know what he could have been saving us from. You know what I mean? So I'm always like, thank God.
Now, you said it right, though, because even just now, I was talking about the positive possibilities, but reality is it could be negative possibilities too.
Yeah.
But we don't like to think about that part, right?
Yeah, we don't like to think about that part, bro.
But that's real, though. So, speaking, because you was just now talking about the Outlaws and music and plans he had for y'all.
Yes.
Teardrops and closed caskets. Can you please, I know it's been a long time, can you paint a picture of what it was like to be back and forth? Because that's probably one of the few songs that y'all did back and forth to pass.
Maybe the only song. I think it might have been the only song that we did, because I don't listen to music anymore, but I do remember Teardrops and Closed Casket because it was very different, unique for us. It was the first time I think Pac said, let's do a song together. Like, let's go back and forth. And a lot of the stuff, he was like, Moo, I want you to say that. A lot of people don't know that. He'd say that, and then he is like, hey, say this. Like, we wrote it all together. And then it was a few lines where he's like, Moo, you say that. Like, Edie, this sound like what you should say. No, that's probably one of the few songs. You know what I mean? Other than, there was a song called You Can Be Touched that Pac did. And one day he came in the studio, he was like, Moo, these words that I said sound like it should be coming from you. I want you to do that, but these was probably the most unique times that we was able to, that Pac really wrote some stuff for us. Because Teardrops and Closed Casket, majority of it, I would say he wrote it. We would say some lines and he might say, no, but I want you to say that. You know what I mean? Because when we was in the studio, it wasn't like that. We couldn't write for each other because that was back then, having a ghostwriter or people write for you that's why a lot of us is not on certain songs. Because if your rap verse ain't finished, you just don't get on the song. That's how Pac wrote. So we wasn't with, hey man, write a song for me. We looked down on that back then. You know what I mean? So that was a rare time, a rare moment.
I was wondering because that song is special. It's one of those songs. I mean, y'all finishing each other's sentences. It's like poetry type. Poetry. That's it's like one of those type flows that y'all finishing each other's sentences, thoughts, and things.
And it had a positive message. We tried our best to put a positive message. That's what a lot of people don't know, that, we was young, so we ain't gonna always get it right. You know what I mean? But a lot of times we wanted that message where at least the people in the ghetto they can feel it. You know what I mean? That we feel like we wanted to be the voices for the voiceless. We always said that. You know what I mean? And I think we never got to a point where, of course, Pac was more advanced than us. You know what I mean? And he was that star. But with us, Pac wanted us to be like his homies, but he never wanted us to leave that street element for some reason. He wanted us to not be in the streets. He didn't want us to get caught up. But it's times like, I don't know if you've seen a video. It was a video on YouTube when somebody, Gaddafi was in front of the camera and Pac got upset. I look at you, always in the camera. I told you that camera gonna get y'all in trouble. Y'all chasing that fame. So he wanted us on records, but he didn't want us to taste it. He wanted us to be like, okay, let's get a little bit of taste, but let's not forget where we come from. You know what I mean? And that's what he was trying to do with us. You know what I mean?
I think Pac lived a lot of lives. I think Pac lived a lot of lives because he lived for y'all. And that's something I think I've never heard nobody actually say. But when you think about it, and you speak about a big brother like that, his mistakes he made sure y'all didn't. And I mean, that staying away from the camera thing made sense because remember Pac said it himself. I didn't have a case until I had a record. Like, what did he say? I didn't have a record until I had a record. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So and he knew how he used to call success. That is sickening. You know how many songs he'd be rapping. He called it success. He was like, man, this, it ain't all what the people want. You know what I mean? Because once you get out there, you can't really turn back, and it affect the people. You know what I mean? Fame ain't what everybody think it's to be. You know what I mean?
Facts. Moo, I know you're on a time schedule, and I'm a man of my word, and I ain't gonna hold you longer than what I told you. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I do want to get into one last thing first. Yes. And I'm gonna actually say it now. I hope that I can keep it. I'm gonna try my best. to keep this promise. But this will probably be the
Yes.
last time I ever call you Napoleon. You know, I
Sure.
want to call you Mutah from now on, but I want you to explain to the people who aren't keeping up with what you do now, because you've already
Yes.
told us, even though I know you don't do rap, you don't listen to rap, you are Muslim. I told them that, but you also do motivational speaking from your Muslim backing and sort of your Muslim teachings and things of that. Can you explain to them exactly why is it not Napoleon anymore and it's Mutah now?
Yeah, Napoleon, because Napoleon was, you know, that name was given to me for a specific reason, you know what I mean, in the music industry. Even though if somebody comes to me and say, hey, Napoleon, I'm a fan, I won't say, hey, don't call me that, you know what I mean? But like you said, once the people get to know me, they would say, okay, he go by Mutah Beale, which is my birth given name. My parents gave me that name, you know what I mean? I became Muslim 19 years ago. You know, I now live in Saudi Arabia for 12 years. 12 years. I do motivational speaking, and it's not only to the Muslim community. You know what I mean? I do a lot for the Muslim and non-Muslim community. If I can be able to just, you know, talk about my life experiences and it might save someone else, like how Pot didn't want us to make those same mistakes he made, I go and tell the kids all the mistakes I made, the things that I did was wrong, the things that my friends did was wrong, and what made him go to prison, and hoping that these kids don't take that same path. You know what I mean? So now living in Saudi Arabia, raising my kids there, very safe environment. I'm in a coffee business, a restaurant business there, just staying out the way. You know what I mean? Just my main goal is to be there, to be a father that I didn't have. You know what I mean? For my kids. So that's very important for me. So I try to move differently now. You know what I mean? I'm thankful that I get to the point where, you know, I feel that I'm matured now, because a person might say something to me now, as you said, you know, when the Nas homie said they say something, we put our head down. Back then, that was impossible for me. Now I can do that and say, you know what? If somebody say something to me, I know how far I can take it. I know where I'm willing to go with it. So let me just ignore that person so I can stick around and raise my kids. So I'm at that point now. You know what I mean? As long as you don't try to put your hands on me, I'll let the people say whatever they want, you know what I mean? Because we need to be around and raise our kids, you know what I mean? A lot of people, they try to say that, you know what I mean, black men is not in their lives. Maybe in the time that we was growing up, you know, when the crack era came, a lot of black fathers was outside of the home. But now, even this trip coming to America, you're starting to see a lot of married black young, you know, black people of color raising their kids. You know what I mean? You see, like, for example, you see Snoop Dogg been married for what, 30-something years, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and all these people, and Mike Epps, and all these people, Ice Cube, all these people that showing us that it is happening. And from our generation, it's happening. So I'm happy to see that. You know what I mean? That we coming together, we raising our kids, and you know, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm just trying to stick around, raise my kids, man, and hopefully give a message to the youth that might not have their father in their life or big brother. You know what I mean? And tell them not to make those same mistakes, you know?
That's real, brother. That's real. Mutah, we are blessed to be able to see your growth. We're blessed to have you out here. And I know we should be expecting even more from you. I know we should be, I know it's happening, you know, and I know you said earlier, of course, it's God willing, but, you know, you've been going in the right direction, brother, and we support you. We continue to support you, man. Continue to be great. Continue to be successful, whatever that means to you. You know, and I hope all of your dreams come true, whatever those are. Salute to your family, your seeds, everybody, man. And thank you for being a brother of your word. And thank you for being a part of this hip-hop and this thing we call nostalgia.
For sure, brother. I appreciate it, man. And send me the link so I can start being a fan of the show, bro.
Man, you know I got you, brother. You be blessed out there. Enjoy the rest of your trip, man. Stay safe.
All right, brother. Take care. You too,
man. Talk to you soon, man.
All right. Peace. One.